we now know we don't have a margin for error. There's no margin for error here. You cannot, against this schedule, drop a game in September because your defense isn't prepared for what the offense is throwing at them. It just can't happen. I don't care what FanDuel has the spread. This is not the schedule to do this with. Your crutch has to be your defense. You have to deliver with the talent you have.
You're tuning in to the First and Gold podcast.
Your Notre Dame football coverage.
Presented by
the Irish Tribune.
Let's pump the brakes for a minute. Fall camp has just begun, and with that, the air you and I breathe is suffocated by optimism. And when it comes to the 2026 Notre Dame Fighting Irish, that's for good reason. The roster's stacked, the program's on fire, and it feels like nothing can stop this program. But you know what they say? You don't know what you have until you're playing in September. And if the past is any indication, we need to have a conversation. I'm your host, Clayton Stoller, along with my co-host, Connor Reagan, and our producer, Backstage, Cole Kruger. We welcome you to the First and Gold podcast presented by the Irish Tribune, where we take you beyond the goal line with independent Notre Dame football coverage. Please like and subscribe to our channel. It helps us out a lot. And don't forget to follow us on social media at the handles listed below.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we've got a ton to talk about concerning your Fighting Irish this week. Plenty of new things coming to South Bend. New faces, new agreements, new facilities, new uniform updates, and a quick trip down September's memory lane with Clayton and I. We've got all that and more next.
Wow, that memory lane sounds like fun, Connor. But before we get there, let's absolutely touch on the uniform updates, right? Like, this is some news that is broken before we ended up recording this podcast. I think that it's important that we talk about it. Initially, even still, I'm not wild about this move. And that's only from like a purity perspective, a traditionalist perspective. But then you do have to look at the dollars and cents. This actually covers the revenue sharing costs up front. There's $20.5 million. That is the cap that schools could directly pay athletes allocated across all sports. Is this a coincidence? I don't think so. This is the direction that this sport was always going to be moving into. Whether I'm crazy about it or you're crazy about it, whether we have opinions about it or not, ND got in front of this conversation, which I applaud.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, especially with Notre Dame. It changes things. If this was just generic University A, I'd be like, no brainer, have to do it. That's just, it's the direction college football's heading right now. And again, you don't want to be playing catch up when it comes to things with this much money at stake, especially. But then it's Notre Dame, where tradition, for better or for worse, I would say usually for the better, wins out. And we take it seriously, I think, to a level that a lot of programs don't. And that's a big draw for Notre Dame. So yeah, it's a gamble. I don't necessarily love the idea of changing tradition, but I will say, in the grand scheme of things, this is a pretty small addition for a pretty high upside. So, again, I don't love it. The only thing I'm potentially worried about is a slippery slope. I don't want an ad plastered Notre Dame Stadium. I don't want SoFi Bank Stadium at Notre Dame Field in South Bend, Indiana. I don't want that. I will say the university's got a pretty good track record about avoiding situations like that. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But it's just interesting to see Notre Dame making moves like this, whereas confidently 5-8 years ago, I would have said I'd put all the money in the world on Notre Dame never doing something like that.
Sorry for inserting myself, but this was a thought that was on my mind. I think a lot of people would have been mad that they wouldn't have taken the $20 million. There's always going to be some segment of the Notre Dame fan base that can't agree on something or doesn't like something. That's just kind of the way it is. And
totally agree.
That's just my take.
And honestly, if you look at it from a traditionalist perspective, I mean, I got to check myself on this. It's like, what is Notre Dame's tradition really? The reality is that their tradition is always pushing those boundaries. New Rockne, He took his team on a train all the way out to California to play USC, which I understand news broke about that. We'll talk about that next episode. But the reality is that Notre Dame has made their name off of pushing boundaries, off of being different and not being afraid to be different as well. Yeah, did I get a little bit of an uncomfortable feeling with all this? I'll be the first to admit that I did. Maybe I'm getting old. I don't know. But the reality is that this was a forward-thinking move, and we'll see how it plays out. The reality is also, if you're winning games, no one cares what the jersey looks like. Here's a prime example before we move on to this. The New York Yankees uniform when they played Syracuse. Kind of funny how that game rolled on, and the longer that it went and the more that Notre Dame looked like the dominant force in that game, first quarter, I'm looking at it, I'm like, these uniforms suck. I can't stand them. Quarter 2, I'm like, I can get used to them. Quarter 3, I'm like, they actually look good. Quarter 4, I'm like, we should wear those all the time.
Now, as an aside, there's no correlation between how many beers you had between the first quarter and the fourth quarter and how you felt about these jerseys, right?
Not at all. That was a sober game.
Wow, a sober game. Wow, a game of many firsts. Keeping the Yankee Notre Dame uniforms too. I'm a Yankees fan, so that was like a dream for me. Like even my gut also was like, I don't love these, but never in a million years would I imagine the two uniforms combining. So it was paradise for me. But to Cole's point, I think they were between a rock and a hard place. The outrage would have been a lot louder if they left, $21 million on the table?
20
Like, come on. Yeah, and that's the thing. I'd rather have $21 million and have a conversation about it than not and have a conversation about it. So it's like, look, this isn't a for-life deal. Notre Dame can pivot if they don't like it. We're not locked into anything. Also, before we move on, found it really interesting that the SoFi patch will not be on Notre Dame's retail sold jerseys to the public.
It's the definition of begging for forgiveness rather than asking for permission. And it is what it is. Like, it is what it is. Like, I'm still going to buy the tickets to these games no matter how exorbitantly priced they are.
But they know who we are.
They know who we are. And that's the reality of it. And also, no one's going to bring this up over the next 3 months once they're actually playing football. Now, speaking of making statements, though, Notre Dame, and this is deliberate, by the way, Notre Dame absolutely made a statement with that new facility rollout. Jack and Kathy Shields, I think Jordan Cornette said this, you did a great job. Now, I don't know these two people. I just know that their name has been involved in this and their name is going to be on the side of this. What a shining endorsement for your family to have a facility like this. It is absolutely state of the art. This is a totally different deal. It is a symbol to me of how far this program has come since 2010. Man, I remember the first time. Not the first time. It's the second time I walked into that stadium. It was in 2010 at the beginning of the Brian Kelly era. And to be honest with you, there is credit due for the foundation that was laid between Kelly and Swarbrick. But to see what Pete Bavacqua and Freeman have done, they've completely run with that torch and they've taken this over the top. Listen, this facility, the release was deliberate. Everything was deliberate about it. But this is a firm declaration that Notre Dame is not just here to contend. It's not hey, every 3 years you got to watch out for this Notre Dame team when those recruiting classes reload. It's saying, hey, every single year we are going to be perennially in the picture. The product of the play is going to speak volumes more than this will. But this was a message. This was kind of Notre Dame's way of planting their flag and saying, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't think of a more resounding way to tell all of us that there is truly, doesn't just feel like it, but there is a new guard in Notre Dame football. There's a next generation that they not only have their focus on, they are actively moving towards. And this was a criticism of the program, one of the few. even pre-Brian Kelly, it was always just the bells and whistles. And Notre Dame didn't need those because we had tradition. We had the championships. We had the Heisman winners. That song and dance only gets you so far. And with enough distance between you and your last Heisman Trophy winner and your last national championship, it's hard to sell that and stand on that alone. So having a facility like this that not only hangs with the best, but has a legitimate and serious argument to be the premier facility in the country in Division I football, that's a heck of a selling point for recruiting. As if Marcus Freeman needed any more help than he's currently got. All these recruits, this next guard that we're talking about, this incoming talent was pre-facility. Okay. Yes, it was spoken about. Yes, it was in the works. That's only, we've all walked through an unfinished home. It's kind of hard to picture the vision fully. When you've got the facility there and you can bring those guys in and do an augmented reality series, it's a set of downs to run through real life gameplay. I mean, again, next level stuff. This is what we've been waiting from the Irish, from the top brass to give this leeway to get this program from 1B to 1A. I mean, at this point, we're just stacking chips in this category of there's no roadblocks, Marcus Freeman. Show us what you can do.
They're pushing their chips all the way into the center as if that wasn't clear enough already. We knew that this was getting built. We knew that this was a thing. And we also know that the alumni, the people that have invested into this project, they are savvy people. There's a reason that their name is on the side of that building. They didn't do that by mistake. They believe in Marcus Freeman. They believe in Pete Bavacqua. They believe in the direction overall of this program. And that's the thing. They say a good athletic director is one in which he eliminates or she eliminates all of those built-in excuses for his or her coach to not win a title. And it's a coach's job to do the rest. Now, it's clear with the moves made during the CMF era, Coach Marcus Freeman, I like to abbreviate, that the excuses are now gone. There are no barriers to entry. The only thing stopping Marcus Freeman and company now, historically, it's been slow starts in September. And I got to ask, what would be the things keeping us up at night if we were on ND staff? Well, let's talk about it. First things first, I have to address the boundary wide receiver position. I love the young talent. I love Micah Gilbert. I'm never, ever going to sell my Micah Gilbert stock until he gives me a reason to in an actual game, but I'm not buying the stock either. I love the depth amongst the entire wide receiver room, and I love the transfer wide receivers. But I got to ask, who's going to step up here? What happens if no one does? Right now, if we're going to be completely honest about it, we don't have any indication of who that might be. And that keeps me up at night. Now, this is a very, very interesting scenario for Mike Brown, because that's a coach, and this is well documented now from the last episode. This is a coach that I just so happen to have a lot of respect for. Guys, he was one of the top 10 paid wide receiver coaches going into his tenure at Notre Dame while he was at Wisconsin. He is much higher than that now, and I can assure you that that's for a reason. There's a track record that follows him. That being said, this is probably the most pressure that Mike Brown is going to be under in his entire career, and there's reasons for that, right? Come on. You've got CJ Carr at quarterback. You've got all this talent that you and the previous receiver coach have recruited for the most part, right? Give or take some transfers. You find yourself in a situation, if you're Mike Brown, saying, my guys have to deliver. I have to have someone step up. Yeah, I know. We know the known commodities, okay? It's Jordan Faison. It's maybe Jaden Greathouse if he could stay healthy. But there's these supplemental pieces that can move the needle so much more. Top of mind for me is Cam Williams. And I don't know if that's going to happen. In fact, when I lay my pillow at night, lay my head on the pillow at night. If I'm a part of Notre Dame's offensive staff, if I'm Mike Brown, I don't know if Cam Williams is actually going to do it. The reality is that this room needs an alpha. And I will say, you hear the buzz of Mylan Graham. You hear the buzz of even Cam Williams, right? You hear that. You see it in film. You even see in certain clips Micah Gilbert going off against Leonard Moore. Who's going to go off against Leonard Moore this year? Man, it has to manifest itself on the field. And we have been in such an interesting spot with this wide receiver position for the last, I'm not even kidding, 10 years. It really has been that long. We do need an alpha to step up in that room. We need someone that could go up and get it. And Mike Brown knows it. But I got to be real with you, man. I don't fully know if I'm bought in on that.
We've talked about this. The talent is there. Shoot, in the Marcus Freeman era, for the most part, that really hasn't been a question. The tough part is, it seems like every year since he took over, through no fault of his own, we're in this position where on paper, we see what's there. We see what could be. And we have the right questions heading into the season. And I feel like we're always kind of left wanting. Like, this is a program that had Maurice Stovall, Rima McKnight, Jeff Samardzija, Chase Claypool, Will Fuller, Michael Floyd, Miles Boykin. I mean, this isn't this Golden Tate. Oh, yeah. Do we have Golden Tate? Yeah. Like, serious, legitimate wide receiver talent. This isn't something that's new for Notre Dame. We're trying to break into this position group and make some noise. And we're getting guys on paper that should live up to this. Something's happening in between. And now we finally have a gunslinger. And this is why this pressure is getting so loud, like you're saying, Clayton, is it's not because Mike Brown hasn't done a good enough job. To his credit, we needed a stabilizing force when this wide receiver room was falling apart. He came in, he did exactly that. We're getting transfers, we're keeping recruits. He did what he's supposed to. It eventually becomes a what have you done for me lately? That part's over. We don't need stability anymore. We're turning the page to we need not just production. I mean, we need two of these guys to legitimately shock us. Not one, we need two of them. And we're in a position now where we don't have Love, we don't have Price to fall back on, figure things out later. We don't have a mayor in our tight end room that we can just, at the end of the day, hey, we don't have a known commodity in our tight end room that we can just appeal to kind of open things up or draw enough attention to a wide receiver, has an opening. But in the best and worst possible way, not having your number one and number two guys set for running backs, not having your 1 and 2 set for tight ends, not having your 1, 2, 3, 4 for wide receivers is both an enormous opportunity for this group to step up and cement themselves in a way that really hasn't even been an option for several of the last, 6, 7 years. But it's also nerve-wracking because, again, like the program in general, there's no roadblocks here. And we're waiting for them to take this next step in a way that I feel like we have for a while now. And that's why this pressure's mounting.
There's no doubt about it. Like, the water has reached the dam. Is the dam going to break? This is the season where we have to figure that out. You don't have a Malachi Fields that you know of with that proven production, the clips to show for it. You don't have the film backing up a lot of these guys. This is something that we have to be very mindful of. And it is something that, based on the fact that you don't have Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love to really kind of erase a lot of your offensive woes throughout a season, especially through September. This has to be dialed in, man. And it's so much to the extent that I'm even hearing whispers, not me directly, but an outlet that we know of, Irish Breakdown, they're hearing whispers that maybe Ian Premer is entertained as that vertical type go up and get it threat. By the way, I'm sorry if I'm breaking news here. I feel like this is something that we all think and are thinking about. We just have to be man enough to say it. This is something like I'm sorry.
Ask the girl out. Ask her out. Man.
Just sell out here and like let's be real. But the fact that we're having that conversation and the fact that that is something that's being discussed should tell you everything you need to know. Now, here's why this is a bigger concern. It's because I feel like maybe since 2020, we've grown accustomed to a running game, a running attack, and a certain level and caliber of running back that should be expected at Notre Dame. There's no doubt about it. But it's not to be taken for granted. And here we are looking at a situation where we're coming off of the two, in my opinion, best running backs that Notre Dame has ever had pound for pound. I'm sorry. I have to be real about that.
That's your least hot take ever, I think.
Yeah, it's just, well, you got the lineage with Jerome Bettis, Reggie Brooks, Tony Brooks, Lee Beck, all these names that Kyron, all these guys that you could, Audric, you could literally spend 30 minutes just listing out names. And I want to be respectful to the room that we have right now because I love this room. But in order for this room to produce the way that they need to, we're just assuming that this offensive line is going to be elite. And when you really peel back the layers under Marcus Freeman, even under Brian Kelly, Notre Dame hasn't had an elite offensive line, what I would consider elite, since 2020. And if we're really, really going to be real, Notre Dame hasn't had an elite offensive line since 2015. So are you just going to assume and bank on the fact? Yeah, sure, you could say 2017. I don't believe that. I'm sorry. I just don't subscribe to, like, 2017 was really, really good. I do not think they were elite. 2015 was the best offensive line group that Notre Dame had. Period. End of story. That's elite. Notre Dame, in 2017, Notre Dame's offensive line, and not to go down this rabbit hole, but like they were up against some wild competition. They were up against some elite competition. I saw some vulnerabilities. Okay. That 2015 offensive line, I didn't really see that. That's why that 2015 team was probably the most capable of winning a title in our lifetimes up to this point, besides 2025, which, whatever. The thing that is just pressing me right now is that I have certainly not seen an offensive line under Marcus Freeman be elite under Joe Rudolph. I agree that the talent is there. The returning production in certain spots are there. But are we just going to assume that that's going to be a well-oiled machine week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4? I don't know if I'm feeling that right now, and that is something that's keeping me up.
I almost jumped in there because that was going to be my qualifier. There's a very big difference between having an elite offensive line unit and having elite offensive line talent. And in multiple groups, like we've said, wide receivers, tight ends, offensive line, multiple positions where we're outside of Mayer, really. I think all three of those position groups, tight end, wide receiver, offensive line, have been living to some degree off of past success. It helps and hurts them because we have high expectations, but they've been living off of that, and it's tying it all together that has not been getting done, specifically in the Marcus Freeman era. And thank goodness this staff is so good at finding the talent and bringing them in and making them want to be there that we can get away with it, not tying it all together. But this is kind of what we were talking about with the defensive line, because you've got the talent now and the size and the depth. You got to tie this thing together. We're still, like the facilities, we're still this 1B. We need to get to 1A. And I'm waiting for this wide receiver group and specifically this offensive line to tie it together. And it's more frustrating when you've got the talent, you can see the vision, you've got the coach, you've got the staff, but there's, for one reason or another, you were just half a step away. And to your point, we've done this multiple times in the last few seasons where we're like, no brainer. If there's anything Notre Dame's going to be good at, they're going to handle the offensive line. They're going to make it work. And yeah, to their credit, better than a lot of teams, they've made it work. For what it should have been, no. We're again in this position with arguably even more shuffling going around. Granted, it's shuffling back to original and preferred positions. So that's a plus that this group has. But yeah, the idea that we're taking it for granted and there is an 11 price in the backfield. Those guys made up for a lot of gaps, a lot of drops, a lot of inconsistency on the offensive line. That combined with the talent up front, we got away with a lot of stuff we had no business getting away with. Now you don't have that safety valve to rely on. What is it going to look like? And especially with no that guy wide receiver that we know of right now and no for sure tight end one out the gate. I mean, you've got all of CJ Carr's weapons and his protection are going to start week one to some degree. Still trying to see what the sketches of this, what the full picture really turns into.
Yeah, and of course, I know that people are going to be watching this video and saying that we're overly negative. They're going to call that out. That's fine. There's a flip side to this coin, guys. But like, understand the thing that we're talking about are the reasons for September woes. Because under Marcus Freeman, the September woes existed and they manifested themselves in the things that we kind of were like, there's no way. There's no way that's going to happen. No, there is way. And he's 9-5 in September. You know, I mean, that says enough. Like we like, guys, you need to be nitpicking right now. The time for optimism ended August 3rd. August 4th now, you got to be looking through your team with a fine-tooth comb. And one of the things that I absolutely want to talk about, the defense is not going to get a free pass here. And honestly, I don't think that there's a lot of there's not a lot of fans that I think that we're going to give this defense a free pass either, because there is a little bit of a weird feeling looming around, and with good reason. I mean, what the heck? I mean, I'm working on my language so much over here. What the crud happened last season? Because I was at that Purdue game and I was there for the first half of it and I was there for the second half of it. And apparently there was a conversation that was had between Freeman and Ash. All of a sudden, pressure was brought. All of a sudden, there was a little bit more man coverage mixed in with zone coverage. I'm not anti-zone coverage. This is well documented. I just would say that a big thing that has got me just, if I'm Marcus Freeman, I am being kept up at night over this. It's Chris Ash. Because Marcus Freeman has pushed his chips in, much like how Notre Dame's athletic director and their administration has pushed their chips in for this football program. He has pushed his chips in on Chris Ash. He has literally put his reputation on the line for Chris Ash. And that ought to be something that we talk about a little bit more. Your sins are not forgiven because after the first 10 quarters that Notre Dame played, that defense started to turn around. No. Because you could talk about the committee all you want to. You could talk about the snub and the politics that were absolutely in play there. No, the reality is, if you're going to take full ownership and if you're going to leave no doubt, you do not roll out a defense like how Notre Dame rolled out a defense in the first 2 weeks. Now, I'm going to give them a pass for the A&M game because the nickel position was in such a weird spot. But here's what's really got me concerned is that the company line across the entire coaching staff, whether it's Marcus Freeman, Chris Ash, and down the line, it's that it's a collection of this. I didn't know what we had to work with last year. Now I do. What are you talking about? That dude, everybody knew what you had to work with last year. I literally have a podcast episode with you with 23 views that literally I was like, dude, he's got the keys to the Ferrari. Do not crash into the guardrail. He crashed into the guardrail. Another thing that continues to be the talking point amongst the defensive side of Notre Dame with all the staff members is nothing really changed after those 10 quarters. We just executed better. Now that, and by the way, Freeman said that, Ash has said that, and that's what it is. That's coach speak. I'm fine with that. I get it. But if we are to take that literally, you are out of your mind if I'm going to let that stand. No, there are things that do need to change. There are things that you need to adopt after those first 10 quarters that we need to see this year. I cannot have what happened the first 2 weeks. It would be a failure to those players and the talent that is on that side of the football, but it would also be a comedy of errors, even against Wisconsin, even against Purdue, Rice, Michigan State. It cannot happen. And it is something that is probably, I don't know if you could tell this, my number one concern.
Clayton, so to your point about this Chris Ash thing with the defense, I thought the entire year last year, they were overthinking whatever the solution was. If you notice how A&M and Miami beat us, it was just dink and dunk. Quick slants over the middle, Malachi Tony, KC Concepcion. It's not like teams were doing anything extraordinary. It was just we were playing off coverage. Chris Ash said that he wasn't here to change Notre Dame's defense, but looks like he tried to put his stamp on it, and that didn't work. So
looked different to me.
It sure did. And honestly, the thing is I agree with you, Cole, and I know Connor does too. I think that we all are we became like anti-zone coverage. You know what I mean? And the thing is it's just because we loved Al Golden, right? We love the results that were produced by Al Golden. But I think that the thing that we found out last year is your coverage is only as good as the pressure that you bring, especially from the front four. Listen, there's a lot of reason to believe that that's not going to be the case this year, that they're going to be able to bring pressure that way, that they're going to mix in coverage. I am not anti-zone coverage. I don't think anyone here is anti-zone coverage. You want to run Tampa 2, run Tampa 2. You want to run cover 2 man, run cover 2 man. But you got to harass the quarterback. You got to get after his rear end. He cannot stand there with a clean pocket. That is the pretext to successful defense, and we didn't see that in the beginning of the season. Now, we all know things would look a little bit different against Miami and A&M towards the end of the year. But have we learned our lessons? That I'm not convinced of yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big question. We joked, and I hope I never have to say it again, but yeah, it wasn't enough Al Golden. It was too much Brian Van Gorder. If I ever have to hear Ben don't break again, I'm gonna break. I don't know. It really felt like it was a let's see what happens approach to it. And then a level of stubbornness, like you said, until we really had somewhat of a breakthrough in the Purdue game where it was like, all right, enough. We're done being cute here. Just go out and punch him in the mouth. And then, wow, shockingly, it started working. But I'm just curious to see if because Ash is in objectively a better position this year than he was last year. He's been here a year. He's got, to your point, he's got all of Marcus Freeman's chips on the table for him. So that's awesome and a lot of pressure. But also you have Notre Dame has the number one returning talent index in the nation this year. And I think almost all of that's on defense. So I literally cannot hear. I didn't know what I had. I didn't know what would work. I mean, you had 12 very painful games to figure that out that I had to watch. I don't want 2 to 3 weeks of you figuring. We can't afford it. Yes, CJ Carr is in a great place, even better than last year. We don't have Love. We don't have Price. We don't have safety valves to fall back on here if things go a little left on that's defense this year. I need it to be no questions. It doesn't have to be sexy. It doesn't have to be perfect. It needs to be Notre Dame defense. I need to be bored with you guys hitting expectation over and over and over again. That's what I need out of you. We cannot afford another, we'll figure it out as we go on the defensive end. We just can't.
No, absolutely not. Nope. It has to deliver. Like, that's the thing. You don't have those built-in crutches this year. Your crutch has to be your defense. And for a long time, and really for much of last season, we were in a spot where we felt like we could trust this defense. You know what I mean? And that has to be out the gate, because the harsh truth is that we now know we don't have a margin for error. There's no margin for error here. You cannot, against this schedule, drop a game in September because your defense isn't prepared for what the offense is throwing at them. I'm telling you, like, I am dead serious.
We can hardly afford a close win against this schedule, much less dropping a game.
No, it just can't happen. I am telling you guys, like, we will talk more about this as the weeks roll on. This Wisconsin team should be taken seriously. I don't care what FanDuel has the spread. I don't care what you know about Wisconsin historically. It's going to look different. And if you come out there on your back foot and a Don Schuler's not jumping in front of absolute airmail like what Carson Beck did to CJ Daniels, if you got your nickel cornerback who's ill-prepared to be in that situation and looks lost, and a receiver runs by him, you are going to lose that game. And if you lose that game, you put everything at risk. This is not the schedule to do this with. We now know this committee, ESPN, all of these forces are against you. Do not put it in their hands. This is why it is absolutely raising my blood pressure on the daily. We got to get this addressed. You have to deliver with the talent you have.
Have to leave, no doubt.
And with that, Connor, that about wraps it up for today's show. We want to thank you guys. And I just, as an aside, I cannot believe how you guys showed out for us on the first episode, man. I just want to be real with you. Like, I am humbled by it. I think Connor and Cole are humbled by it. Like, Cole has, and he doesn't know that we're going to say this, Cole put in so much work on the edits and making this look professional and clean. It's the product that you guys deserve. Coming into this season, we wanted to deliver that to you guys. But we just appreciate you tuning in. And we want more and more people to get in on the conversation. Like, this is built for you. This is not for us. This is not for the establishment media. No, this is for you as fans. Like, we want to have that conversation with you, and we intend to open the doors up to have that open conversation. We cannot do it without you. Absolutely humbled by the last episode and like kind of the support that you guys gave. So for real, thank you. This is First and Goal podcast presented by the Irish Tribune, where we take you beyond the goal line with independent Notre Dame football coverage. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel, like the video, leave a comment or review, and follow us on all of our social media platforms listed below. And we love you guys. So let's keep it going. Let's keep it rolling, and know that we'll be back for the next episode.